So believe it or not, there are a lot of things trying to ruin your Disney World vacation, and some of them are expected, like rain and crowds, but some of them are not so expected. And we want to go over a few of those for you today here on DFB Guide. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we are going to talk about your next Disney World vacation today and the things that might totally tank it. Believe it or not, there's a lot of things that are trying to destroy your Disney vacation. We want to make sure that does not happen. So let's dive in and talk about one that maybe you're not thinking about or actively trying to take care of, and that is your expectations. So that's the number one thing trying to tank your Disney vacation. Yes, Disney is way expensive. You're spending a ton of money to be there, and unless you're Scrooge McDuck with a pool of money, you're likely stressing about the costs adding up. So unfortunately, when you're spending a lot of money on something, you're expecting it to be perfect. And no Disney vacation is going to be perfect, believe it or not. So you can be the reason you're killing your trip without even realizing until it's too late. So you want to manage your own expectations. Try not to focus on the "this is so expensive" tunnel vision. And if it's truly too expensive for you right now, consider saving for a bit longer and visit when your budget can more comfortably accommodate your trip. So there's no use stressing for a week at Disney over how much you're spending, only to go home and realize you didn't enjoy yourself because of it. So it helps to budget ahead of time for food, beverage, and souvenirs so you can be more in the moment and not worry so much about cost while you're there. And if it is going to be too expensive at this point in time, then postpone the trip for a year maybe, and instead go when all those new rides are open. But in all seriousness, manage your expectations, know that things aren't going to be perfect, and budget some emotional energy to handle a few fiascos and put out a few fires, and then be ready to laugh about them afterwards. All right, another thing trying to ruin your Disney vacation are those time wasters. Now, there's a lot of these at Disney World. A few examples. It's just taking forever to get a bus from your resort or a monorail. You might be leaving in the morning when it feels like everyone in your hotel are all trying to catch a bus to that same place you are. So that's taking a lot more time than you expected to get to the park. Maybe your monorail goes down, so you're sitting suspended over Seven Seas Lagoon for like 20 minutes that you weren't expecting. That happens once in a while. Maybe you didn't realize it was a 7-mile trip from Animal Kingdom Lodge to Magic Kingdom, and that quick bus ride you were banking on is suddenly taking a lot longer. Or once you get where you're going, you're stuck in a super long line at a security checkpoint, and the line you get in, that security guard is basically turning all those bags inside out, so it's taking forever. So there goes even more time, and now you're really late for that advanced dining reservation or that FastPass, or just really late to start your day. So that can absolutely happen, you guys. It happens all the time on every Disney trip. So here's your solutions. Here's how you're going to solve those problems. If you're waiting for ages at that bus stop, you can call a rideshare like a minivan. They can get you pretty quickly and zip you off to your destination in no time. You can also get a taxi or some other kind of rideshare pretty quickly. If you're there during a jam-packed time like the holidays, spring break, or even the actual 50th anniversary coming up in October 2021, and you just can't avoid those packed crowds waiting for transportation, you can consider renting a car ahead of time. Then you're in control of when you come and go. Now, if you're stuck waiting or stranded on transportation that isn't moving for whatever reason and gonna miss that advanced dining reservation, call Disney, call the reservation line, and speak to someone to help change that reservation. You can ask if they can put you through to the podium at the restaurant itself and see if they can help, or hold your spot at least. They're usually happy to try and help you. They don't want you to miss that reservation either. So there's plenty of options. And if nothing else works, then you may just need to postpone that reservation, get in there and modify the reservation, or show up and see what they can do for you. Now, if you're late for that FastPass, keep in mind you do still get about 10 to 15 minute grace period on those FastPasses. So if you make it in time, you'll be okay. If you're later than that, get on My Disney Experience on your phone and see if you can make it for a later time, if you can modify that FastPass for a later time. Hey, it happens. Now, if you can't change it, maybe head to guest services when you do get to the park and see if they can help. If you explain your situation and maybe you were hanging suspended on a monorail for 20 minutes and the reason why you couldn't make your FastPass is genuinely Disney's fault, then it's possible that guest services might be able to do something for you to give you a hard FastPass or something like that. As for security, plan ahead of time. Pack your bag knowing they want to see everything. So use plastic bags, clear plastic bags if you can, to keep it all easy to see. They won't have to open anything else that way. So if you have everything in Ziploc bags or clear plastic bags, they don't have to open those bags. And also unzip everything to expedite the process. If you really want to haul through security, don't pack a bag at all. You can save waiting in those long lines and get where you're going much faster. Now keep in mind how much these things can slow you down before you go and pad in that extra time. It doesn't hurt to give yourself an hour to get from A to B at Disney World. Getting there a tiny bit earlier than expected is way easier to handle than showing up super late. From both a timing and a stress perspective, you don't need to be stressed out at the beginning of your Disney day. Believe me, plenty will happen during the day to stress you out, especially if you're there with your whole family. All right, another thing trying to ruin your Disney vacation: price increases. So we all know that Disney is super expensive, but with a slew of recent price increases, it's worse than you may realize right now. So this is the first time park tickets saw a bump twice within the span of 1 year, once last October and again in March. And this past October, many popular food and beverage items saw an increase as well. That Mickey bar will now set you back $5.75. I can remember when it was $3 something back in the day. A Mickey pretzel is going to cost you $7. A bottle of Coke is $4.50. So even at Galaxy's Edge in Disney World, for whatever reason, many food and drink items are roughly $1 more than their Disneyland counterparts. So how can you combat this? You got to take steps to ensure you're saving every penny you can before you go. Here are a few tips. Room discounts. Now, Disney typically has multiple discounts available for a resort hotel rooms. Check that special offer tab on their site. So if you research your options, you should be able to avoid paying full price for a room. So make sure you're getting a room discount. Even if you're not an annual pass holder, you're no affinity whatsoever, you can still get room discounts with their general public room discounts. So be sure to get that. And do check for free dining. The free dining offer that comes out usually once a year, but this year twice a year. If that free dining offer is available when you're looking to go, do the math. Depending on your family, it could be a great deal, but you will pay slightly more for your room in that circumstance. But if you get all your food for free, it may balance out. So check the math, make sure that it's going to save you some money, and then book that free dining option. Another way to save the money: stay off site. If you really want to save some money, you got to get out of the Disney hotels. The Disney hotels are always going to be more expensive. So you can find rooms much cheaper and often larger than on property. But you'll lose those amenities that come with a Disney resort. But the cost savings may be worth it if it suits your family. Next, look into discount programs. There are several different discount programs that a lot of Disney visitors don't know about. A lot of Disney guests don't even know that they exist. We have a whole video on discounts that you can watch, but you guys know we talk about this quite a bit. Annual pass holders receive lots of resort discounts through the year, as well as discounts on restaurants and merchandise. Also, they get access to the free photo pass. So only one member of your group needs to be an annual pass holder for everyone to benefit from the savings. So you want to crunch those numbers. And again, we have another video all about upgrades where we talk specifically about the annual pass and crunch some numbers for you so you can see if it makes sense for one person in your family to get one. Tables in Wonderland is a discount program that's open to Florida residents, DVC members, and that's Disney Vacation Club, or annual pass holders. Now this costs between $150 and $175 per year, but it gets you 20% off on food and alcohol at most sit-down restaurants. So if eating is a big part of your plans, this could save you a lot of money, especially if you're headed to Disney World more than once during the year. Also, you can look up restaurants on property with a mailing list or discount program. Many restaurants in Disney Springs that are run by third-party companies have mailing lists and discounts that you can get on totally for free. One example is the Patina Group. They own lots of restaurants throughout Disney Springs and Epcot, and they have a mailing list as well with occasional specials. You also want to maybe join the Landry's Select Group, where you can get discounts at places like Yak and Yeti, T-Rex and Rainforest Cafe. Blaze Pizza also has a discount program that you can join through their app. So there's lots of opportunities. If you head over to dfbstore.com, pick up our DFB guide to Walt Disney World dining, we have every discount program we know about listed in there. There's a discounts chapter with all that information in there for you. Speaking of discounts, use code YouTube to get a discount on the DFB guide. All right, next way to save some money: eating off property. So if you don't mind leaving Walt Disney World property, there's tons of restaurants just outside Disney's gates with much lower pricing than you're going to find in the parks. So if you're tired of spending like $40 for a hamburger, you can go off property and maybe only spend $7 for a hamburger. It's a miracle. So with rideshares and taxis so popular in Orlando, this can be easy now. Even without a car, you can get off property for a meal. But be sure to offset the cost of that rideshare if you're going to go off property to save money on your food. But frankly, it probably would still be offset. Disney food's really expensive. All right, and consider buying food before you go. So food costs are a huge expense on any Disney trip, and you can combat that by using a grocery delivery service for when you arrive, like Garden Grocer or even Amazon Fresh, or order snacks and breakfast items online on sites like Amazon and ship directly to your hotel. Now, keep in mind, Disney does charge a $5 per box fee for delivery to your hotel sometimes. Each resort is kind of different, so you'll have to call your resort ahead of time and see how much that box is going to cost you. You can also pop over to a nearby grocery store, grab some breakfast items or maybe stuff to make sandwiches, maybe some oatmeal, stuff that you can make super easily in your room so that you're not eating out for every single meal. Next thing that's trying to ruin your Disney vacation, you're listening to the wrong advice. So everyone has that aunt or cousin or coworker who knows Disney, quote unquote. And while their advice may be awesome for them and their needs, you need to make sure it works for you before you take it. Just because someone tells you you have to do this doesn't necessarily mean it will be a good fit for you. Now, you know, here at DFB Guide, we try really hard to make sure that we're describing and explaining the food or activity or attraction, etc., that we're talking about so that we can help you determine if it's right for your family, not just whether it's good or bad. And unfortunately, a lot of your favorite advice givers out there in your hometown, they just want to tell you something's great, but not really giving you all the information you need to figure out if it's great for you and your family. So educate yourself. You don't need to go crazy. Just learn enough to make educated decisions for you and your crew. Watching DFB Guide right now is a good choice. It's a good way to do it. So our DFB Guides over on DFB Store can quickly come up with a plan that's catered to your group and take a ton of the pressure off. And these tips are going to help planning not to seem so daunting and help filter out the bad advice you may get. Do you have any budget concerns? Do you have kids? Do you have enough time to do everything you want to do? All of these things need to be figured out beforehand so you can avoid major pitfalls when you're at Disney. And unfortunately, Aunt Susan may not necessarily care about that. All she wants to tell you is that you have to go to Chef Mickey's. So here are a few things to consider. Not every kid is going to love meeting characters or riding certain rides, so knowing your kid can save a lot of headaches and possibly tears in the parks. Plan for your family. Don't just plan to do the things you're told you have to do. Is everyone in your group tall enough to ride everything they want to? Look up those ride heights before you go to be sure so you can again avoid tears. And maybe no one in your group wants to see much of Hollywood Studios, but everyone wants to go explore Disney Springs. Make Hollywood Studios a half day and take a break strolling Disney Springs. So thinking comprehensively ahead of time can weed out what's not important to your group long before you're standing in front of the castle. And this is also a good opportunity to get your whole family or your whole group involved in the planning. The more they're involved, the more responsibility they're going to take for making sure it's a good and enjoyable vacation for everyone. So even if you don't want to spend hours planning, show your family a few hotels, a few restaurants, a few rides and attractions, and get their feedback on what they want to prioritize. Then you've got an invested group of people who are traveling together looking to have a great time. Speaking of those folks, another thing that's going to ruin your vacation is your family. I hate to say that, but sometimes it's true. You will likely go to Disney with that picture-perfect idea in your brain of what your family trip is going to be like, but it won't be like that. Disney can put a ton of stress on your family. Everyone's going to be tired, cranky. If you have kids, they may be bouncing off the walls all the time. Keep in mind that even surrounded by Disney magic, your kid's still going to be your kid, your spouse is still going to be your spouse, and everything that's good or bad about them is going to be cranked up to 11. So the stuff you love most will shine through, but so will the things that make you want to pull your hair out. So again, solutions. Plan ahead to get everyone involved in that planning. Make sure that they're all contributing to your strategy. And while you're planning, make sure you have time available for relaxation. Don't try to do every single thing in Disney World. We say this all the time here on DFB Guide. You can't do it. It's not possible, and you're not going to have a good time. So prioritize the important things and leave the rest out for gravy if you happen to get to them. Also, make sure you've got those down times during your day, those relaxing times. You spend a resort day at the hotel just swimming in the pool. You have some extra time each day for a nap if needed. And again, if you don't need that relaxing time, if you guys want to keep going, you can. But it's always nice to have that built in. When you're at Disney World, be sure to check in with your spouse or significant other throughout the day to make sure everything's still okay, everything's still positive, everybody's still doing all right. So keep communication at the forefront. Talk to everyone, make sure everybody's doing all right throughout the day. And also make sure your kids stay relatively close to their normal sleep schedules. That may mean naps midday or missing a fireworks show, but throwing your kids' schedule off can be a recipe for disaster. I'm going to take my kid to Disney World in a couple of weeks and we're going to go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, but I know he's usually in bed by 8:30 here in Dallas, and so that means his bedtime in Orlando is 9:30. So that means we're probably not going to get to see the fireworks at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, and that's going to be okay because I don't want to mess with his schedule. I think it's going to be much more important to keep him on schedule than have him stay awake and see something that he's probably not going to remember. Also, don't be afraid of a stroller. Just because your kid is 6 or 7 and seems too big doesn't mean they can walk 10 or 15 miles in a day. There's nothing wrong with renting a stroller so your kids can rest their legs or take a nap. And finally, keep everybody hydrated. This past week when I was in Disney World for Galaxy's Edge and Food and Wine Festival, and it was crazy hot and it was unbelievable, I tell you guys all the time to stay hydrated. I did not stay hydrated and my body was upset about it. So believe me, you will not feel well if you don't drink that water. So make sure everybody stays hydrated. Okay, let's move on to crowds. So you know the crowds are going to be bad. They're always bad. But with a ton of new additions coming in the next few years, you may not be prepared for how bad they're going to be. So we know there's tons of rides being added in the next few years. Restaurants are coming. The Skyliner's opening. Mary Poppins is coming to Epcot. There's a lot happening. So we're going to see a lot of people. I think at least Disney's hoping we're going to see a lot of people flooding into those parks. So how can you avoid the crowds? First, try to book your trip when the kids are in school. Crowds always swell during school holidays, so if there's any possible way you can book your trip when kids are in school and not out of school, that would be your first line of defense. Now, holidays, avoid those too. We're not just talking Christmas. Think twice before you visit during national holiday 3-day weekends. Also, book your dining at off times, not when everyone else is eating. Here at DFB, we love to hit the parks early, then take a break around 11 a.m. for a brunch. Dinner can be best closer to 4 p.m. or after 9 p.m. For those parks, arrive early and stay late. That's always the key to avoiding the crowds because people tend to roll in around 10 a.m. and they tend to roll out right after the fireworks. So if you're there before 10 a.m., you can probably get a lot of rides on a lot of stuff really quickly, especially with those extra magic hours that are in effect until November 2nd right now. You've got extra magic hours going on in several of the parks this year. Also remember, if you've seen or don't care to see a parade or fireworks, that can be a great time to jump in shorter lines for some rides. Splash Mountain can be super fun if you time it while the fireworks are happening, and it can be a neat way to experience the fireworks to save time. Next thing that's trying to ruin your vacation, the weather. It won't stop raining. It's raining all the time. I know it rains a lot at Disney. And in warmer weather, it's not at all uncommon to have that afternoon shower every single day or so that can pass pretty quickly. But it's also possible you might have torrential rain a few or every day of your trip. So lots of rides will typically keep running if it's raining unless there's lightning in the area or the rain is just coming down too hard. But in that case, all outdoor rides will be closed until it's safe for guests to ride. But here's the benefit. If you're in those lines when they close down, you may have just scored a free FastPass for your troubles. So if you had a FastPass for a ride that shuts down, they'll put a bonus FastPass on your account that you can use for any ride. So that's pretty awesome. So if you couldn't get a FastPass for Splash Mountain or Space Mountain, this can be a way to possibly ride those with a shorter wait. Also, don't forget to pack a poncho. You can bring ponchos or umbrellas from home fairly inexpensively. But if you do need to buy one at Disney, it's going to cost some money, but they do have them available. So you can just throw in a poncho and keep riding rides if it's raining. And don't forget to wear shoes you don't mind getting wet. No one likes soggy, gross shoes, especially when you're walking miles a day at Disney. And as I always say, flip-flops are going to be a mess if you're in the rain, so be sure you have sandals with a back on them that will stay on your feet even if it's raining. You can try to safeguard your trip by planning meals or indoor rides in the afternoon, since that's when the rain usually hits. And the last thing to adjust is your mindset, or maybe that's the first thing to adjust. Know that it's going to rain on your trip. Have your umbrella, have your poncho, have your decent shoes, and have your fast passes, because you know what? Those ride lines are going to be a lot shorter when you head into a rainy park, so you're going to get to ride more. So just look at it as a positive. You're not going to melt. Go out there in the rain. It's nice warm rain. So go out there in the rain and have fun. And the last thing we want to talk about here is hurricanes. So this is pretty timely right now with Dorian, and we have a whole video all about weather and hurricanes in regard to Disney World that you can go check out. And while hurricanes are a lot less common than I think a lot of people think they are, they do affect your Disney trip pretty regularly, whether you're worried about them hitting or there's something out in the Atlantic that's on its way that you're stressing about. Even if it doesn't actually happen, it can still affect your trip by causing you to stress and worry. So hurricane season runs from late May through late November, and other parts of Florida like the Keys or the Panhandle are much more susceptible to tropical weather. Central Florida is much safer, but it can receive those rain bands and tropical storms and things like that coming through. So if a storm does make its way to Disney World, parks may close early or open late as guests on property may be asked to stay inside their resorts. But cast members at resorts will be there to do everything they can to try and entertain restless families and keep everyone safe. Honestly, as soon as there's a hurricane even whispered about, Disney starts to recruit cast members who will leave their homes and families and come stay on property to take care of the people on property. They do a really, really great job making sure everybody is safe and cared for. So remember, hurricanes are super rare in Orlando. They do not happen often, but if they do happen, if something does come through Orlando and come through Disney World, it's one of the safest places to be, so don't stress too much. Now, Disney does have a hurricane policy on their website that will tell you all the information you need to know about cancellations, refunds, and things like that. And you can also look at that hurricane policy. You can also look at the Disney World website to see if they're starting closures or closing things as a result of hurricanes. So hopefully you can avoid these issues that may try to put a dark cloud over your Disney trip. We've talked about a lot of expected and maybe some unexpected things that can definitely throw a wrench into your perfect family vacation. So hopefully these solutions have helped you out and you guys have some useful tools in your toolbox to combat these things that are trying to destroy your vacation. So as always, you guys, we want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments, what are some crazy things that have happened during your Disney vacation? How do you plan so that you can combat these negative things that go on during your Disney trip? We want to hear from you. Get your tips, get your tricks. Let us know your experiences in the comments. As always, thanks for listening and thanks for watching, you guys. We'd love to have you subscribe to the channel. If you're going to Disney, if you've been to Disney, or if you just like hearing about Disney, we'd love to have your subscription. This is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.